What's up, guys? It's Aaron, the trucker guy, coming at you. On this episode of the trucker guy, I'm going to be talking about what you should be making doing hotshot, what your expenses should be roughly, what your variable, fixed, everything expenses should be, revenue should be, rate per mile should be, etc. So there's a couple of important factors that come into what you should be making and how to be successful in a hotshot business. Number one is revenue. If you don't have revenue, you can't pay the bills. A lot of guys call me. This is one of the biggest things that I hear every day when they call me. What do you guys average? What do you guys average? So I'm going to go over that. I'm going to try to tally them up kind of like right in this area. So let's get into it, man. So several factors that you should be looking out for. And everybody thinks, oh, it's just rate per mile. That's all that matters. Wrong. Rate per mile is important, but it is not the most important factor, because you could do $10 a mile, only do 100 miles, $1,000. It's not enough money to pay truck, trailer, insurance, company percentage, etc. So you could see how, that's not the most important factor, although it is important, okay? The biggest factor is revenue, okay? But revenue as well as rate per mile, as well as, managing your expenses, both fixed and variable. So an example of a fixed expense would be your truck payment, trailer payment, things like that. An example of a variable expense would be your fuel, breakdowns, food, etc., things like that. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to do a kind of baseline where you should be at. Some guys aren't there, but that's kind of what you should always strive to hit every week. You're gonna have some weeks that you do, far better and exceed this, and so you're gonna have some weeks that maybe you hit just a little bit below this, but it's also a law of averages. So 4 weeks in a month, you should say, if you hit this number this week, this number this week, this number this week, what did you average over 4 weeks to give you X per week? So if you need to bring home X, you need to hit X, so that's kind of the equation. But the revenue I'm going to use is $4,000 on 2,500 miles at $1.60 a mile. Now, some guys will say, oh, that's low, that's crap, but that's the realistic, world that we're living in and what a lot of guys are getting. Now, we have some trucks that get less. We have some guys that far exceed this. It depends on where they're at, what they're hauling, who they are, what their work ethic is. So when guys call me, one of their biggest things is, what do you guys average? What do your guys average every week? It's a huge fluctuation in what guys average, because I have a guy that lives on the road, doesn't have a family, never goes home, or maybe he doesn't even have a house, whatever the situation is. And then you have guys that want to be home every weekend, guys that don't want to leave their area too far, guys that work 2 weeks a month, so there's several factors. So determining an average is pretty difficult in a fleet of hot shots or any trucking industry. So, but on $4,000 revenue, one of the first things is, maybe you're a lease guy or maybe you're not. And if you're not, and you own your own authority and you're doing your own thing, you should still be taking out some sort of company percentage, because you're gonna have things that pop up to pay for, load boards, a dispatch company if you're paying one, many other things that come into it, certain filing fees, things that are gonna pop up, taxes, whatever. So what I did is at our company, when guys sign on in the beginning, we usually start hot shots off at 20%. So at 20%, one of the first things that you would back off of that 4,000 is 20%, that's $800. Okay, at that $800 mark, everybody's like, wow, you guys, that's a lot of money to be paying a company to sign on, but we also pay for factoring, several other things. We pay your IFTA. There's other things that we back out of that as well. So like I tell most guys, especially when I was doing like our Shaggy show, we average around $400 to $500 a week per truck, and that goes up and down based on what their revenue is. The second thing, so that's also a variable expense, because as your revenue increases or decreases, that 20% will increase or decrease. So it's not a fixed expense, it's a variable expense. Another variable expense is fuel. Fuel I did at 8.5 miles per gallon, which is what our trucks average. Most hotshot trucks are gonna average that. There's certain setups that might get a little bit better. There's certain situations where you might be hauling something that's high, that's dragging wind, or super heavy, or going over certain terrain, and you might be getting 5-6 miles a gallon, whatever. But the average in our fleet is 8.5 miles per gallon. So on 2,500 miles, you basically just take the miles, multiply it times 8.5, you get the rate of fuel, at what it is, what the cost is. Average is about $3 right now, plus or minus depending on where you buy it and what your program is and what discount you get. So if we do 4,000 minus $800 for the 20% company fee, 885 fuel at 8.5 miles per gallon, 2,500 miles. The next thing is a fixed expense, which would be your truck payment. Now, a lot of guys in this industry, I'm sure, there's some that are getting much cheaper, much more expensive. There's a whole lot of ground, but I average it at $1,000. A good new dually, 65 grand. If you have decent credit, you put a little bit of money down, you should come around. I've bought several of them. You should be able to come out around $1,000 somewhere in there. So at $250 a week is what it breaks down to for your truck payment. Guys, trailer payments. Some guys buy trailers cash. Some have payments. Some financed them, in many different ways. Some put more down. Some didn't. Some have better credit than others. So there's a lot of variables. But your trailer payment should not really exceed much of $100 a week. Now, maintenance escrow. Some guys, think, I'll just pay it as it goes. I've noticed that it seems to be the theme across most people that I talk to, that they don't have a maintenance escrow. They just, if it breaks, they fix it. They change their oil when they need it, their fluids when they need it. They do tires when they need it, and that's it. But if you're doing a maintenance escrow, which I recommend doing at 5%, that'd be $200. If you're doing any other escrows, you can add those two there and kind of come out and back out what you want and get close to this number. Another thing that you're going to have is insurance. Now, this insurance is a little bit high that I put in here, but most guys coming into it have new MCs, or they sign on to somebody with a new MC, so they're paying around $300 a week. Some of our guys are getting a little bit cheaper. It just depends on several factors: the cost of your equipment, the value, how long you've had your CDL. There's a whole underwriting process that goes into what, why, how much that is. But basically, so if you take that $4,000, you subtract the 800 for 20%, 885 for fuel, 250 for the truck payment, 100 for a trailer payment, 200 for a maintenance escrow at 5%, 300 for insurance. That leaves you with 1465. Okay, that's what you should be profiting after expenses. Okay, so if you don't know what that number is, you really don't know what you're doing, and most of you guys are turning over money. So, and as you can see, that number, some guys be happy with it, some guys would not be happy with it. When I was running, I would not be happy with that number. I wanted to make 2,000 plus a week after my expenses. So it just really depends on what you want to do, how you want to run, and what you want to make. Some guys would be ecstatic with that. It all depends on your situation and what you need to clear. Now, this doesn't account for a few other things like food. I threw that in at the end. When I was running, I was doing about 20 to 30 bucks a day eating on the road. You can't get good food. I know several guys in our fleet that, their wives cook and they prepare pre-made meals. Some guys, they eat real healthy. Some guys eat less. Some guys eat a lot of truck stop, big dinners at night. I mostly did like a Subway thing, salads and sandwiches, 10 bucks each twice a day, sometimes a snack, whatever. But it averaged about 20 to 30 bucks a day, so about 100 bucks a week. So you'd end up with $13.65 roughly if you spend 100 bucks a week on food. Say you spent 150, you splurged a little bit, you'd still end up with, $12.50, somewhere in that range after expenses. And this is on a base week. Okay, again, I'm gonna try to tally these numbers up here for you guys, but that is on a base week. If you guys do better numbers. Now, how can you change these numbers to generate more profit? Okay, you cannot change your fixed expenses. Okay, you might be able to refinance the truck, get it cheaper maybe, pay off your trailer, that would help. There's just a few things that you could do on your fixed expenses. Maybe the next year, get cheaper insurance or put more money down on the insurance. That's a process that you could go through. But the variable expenses, you can fluctuate some. You can get fuel cheaper. I know some of my guys started going to the mom and pop shops if they could fit. They got a couple different apps that they started following, where the cheapest fuel was. But then again, you run into cheap fuel sometimes. The mom and pop shops have bad gas. And also your discount. If you have a fuel card or if you don't have a fuel card, what kind of discount are you getting? So there's different programs out there. I definitely recommend finding one. We have one through our factoring company, but some of our guys don't use it. They actually get a better discount through, mom and pop shops. So I've seen guys save a ton of money, get, 20, 30, even 40 cents off if you're talking about the big, Pilots, Flies, and J's, stuff like that. But that you could fluctuate some. Changing your mile per hour, also helps with fuel. I know some guys come on, they run 70, 75 miles an hour, and some guys that run 60, 65. It is slow and mundane, but it does make a big difference. there's not a whole lot else that you can change. Trying to get obviously a better rate per mile is always key. So if you could do these same numbers as far as fixed and variable expenses, but you increase the rate per mile to it from $1.60 to $2 a mile, or $1.80, $1.89, whatever, that bottom number of $14.65 for profit is going to go up. So if you're able to do that, and every time you can negotiate a higher rate, you're going to get that bottom number to be a little bit better. But try to keep these other numbers the same, because that's what you should be doing. Most hot shots are doing that. They're doing 2,500 to 3,000 miles a week, no problem. And they're generating, 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 even, or better a week. So if you are running those numbers, that's awesome. You should be doing something like this every week, so you know exactly what that number is. Because I know a lot of guys come on, especially the guys that want to do hotels, never works out for them because they're actually turning money over. They think that they're getting hotels for $40 and $50 a night, when in fact, most of the nights they're paying $100 a week, because they're in Dallas, Atlanta, some of these places where you just can't get a hotel that cheap. So I wanted to go in and do a little cost breakdown for you guys. And if you don't know what these numbers are, you're really not running a real business. You're just running around, moving around, running from the seat of your pants. And until you know these numbers and exactly what they are every week, you're not going to be successful. I promise you that, because you're going to take freight to get in certain situations, or out of certain situations, or out of certain places, or to get home a lot or whatever, and you're going to be losing money. So if you know what these numbers are, you're going to be successful. You can get a simple app on your phone. You can do QuickBooks. You can run a P&L like we do every week. You can run something like Spending Tracker. It's a free app on your phone. There's many different ones. Accounting software. There's a ton of different things on different platforms that you can use, but you need to be using something so that you know exactly what that number is at the end of every single week. If you run on a 7-day week, I know guys pick up on Friday, take a 34-hour reset, deliver on Monday. So we run our stuff from Friday to Friday. Some guys run Monday to Monday, Wednesday to Wednesday. There's a million different ways to run your accounting, but we run it